Nigel Farage is about to speak.
Good morning, everybody. Today we launch Operation Restoring Justice. And as far as the people of this country is concerned, frankly, these measures can't come soon enough. As you know, we've been running over the course of the last 6 weeks our very successful crime campaign. It's seen us rise further in the polls. It's seen great new recruits, Vanessa Frake and Colin Sutton, joining our party. And today is the last instalment of that campaign ahead of our party conference in Birmingham on the 5th and 6th of September. Today we're going to talk about illegal immigration, in particular the boat crossings, but there's more, of course, to the story than that, and perhaps it's appropriate that we're here this morning after yesterday, the scenes in Dover that took place as 650 people arrived. 650 people yesterday arrived into Dover, and last I heard this morning, there are many more boats on the way today. That will take us up to about 52,000 people since this Prime Minister and this government came into power. The mood in the country around this issue is a mix between total despair and rising anger. And I would say this, that without action, without somehow the contract between the government and the people being renewed, without some trust coming back, then I fear deeply that anger will grow. In fact, I think there is now, as a result of this, a genuine threat to public order, and that is the very last thing that we want. And I've been saying, of course, for a long time, that it's a growing threat to our national security. And we've seen just recently some arrests made of people that came by boat, and they are suspected of being involved in some form of terrorism. Huge numbers of undocumented young males who throw their passports and iPhone into the English Channel when they get to the 12-mile line, something that I've been out and filmed. These huge numbers of people do constitute a threat. And I suppose the growing anger in the country over the course of the last few weeks is a cultural one, in the sense that many of these young men come from countries in which women aren't even second-class citizens. And frankly, the public have now just had enough. And what began as a protest of mothers and concerned citizens outside the Bell Hotel in Epping has now spread right across the country. And all of it really poses one big fundamental question. Whose side are you on? Are you on the side of women and children being safe on our streets? Or are you on the side of outdated international treaties backed up by a series of dubious courts? The Channel crisis began with a trickle of dinghies in 2018. The numbers in 2018 and 19 were very small indeed. But I began to realize in early 2020 that virtually nobody that came via this route was being deported. They would have been, even in Tony Blair's government time. If you'd done that, you would have been deported, no question about it. And so in early 2020, I repeatedly went out into the English Channel, filming what was going on, saying you may as well put a sign on the White Cliffs of Dover saying everyone welcome. And unless we start deporting people, I predicted this would turn into, and yes, I use the word, invasion. But 180,000 people later, what other word could possibly describe what has been going on? It is an invasion, as these young men illegally break into our country. Well, I did my best in 2020. I warned everybody. I said, unless we deport, the crisis will worsen considerably. But But I'm afraid that the Conservative government, for the first few years, did literally nothing. Literally nothing. And then belatedly, they put in place a Rwanda plan, they put in place legislation, but none of it could work because they hadn't got the courage to face up to the legal obstacles that made sure, despite spending huge amounts of money on these plans, that nothing was actually going to happen. Rishi's Stop the Boats was a total failure, and frankly, anything that party or people who were ministers at the time in that government have to say, we've got to take with a very, very large pinch of salt. And then, of course, we had Keir Starmer, the lawyer, the man whose second speech as Prime Minister in the House of Commons was where he outlined his love for the European Court of Human Rights, a party many of whom have done very well out of the human rights industry.
Using the internet without a VPN, a virtual private network, is a bit like taking to the road without car insurance. All it takes is one unlucky moment to cost you a lot of cash. This video's sponsor is Private Internet Access. They are the VPN to help keep you safe. Click the link in the description below to find out why over 30 million people have downloaded PIA to protect themselves online. A virtual private network is an app that hides your IP address and helps keep your data private. When you're browsing the internet at home, you give up a large amount of data to businesses, to shops, and indeed to social media giants too. Hackers have the ability to steal your personal data with ease, including sensitive information such as passwords, keystrokes, and even your personal photos. Private Internet Access helps protect your personal data by encrypting your internet connection to keep your data out of the hands of cyber criminals. And it's not just hackers either to be concerned about. Information can be censored too. When Canada passed their C-18 bill, social media giants decided to ban news content on their platforms. But PIA can protect your ability to consume the news and content you love. Private Internet Access is available for Windows users, Mac OS, Android, Linux, iOS, and you can use one PIA subscription to protect an unlimited amount of devices. And we've got a huge GBNews discount for you too. Click the link in this video's description and you'll get a massive 83% off PIA. That's under £2 a month, the price of a coffee, and you'll get an extra 4 months completely free on top. Also, there's a 30-day money-back guarantee too. Visit piavpn.com/GBNews to start protecting yourself digitally today.
Smash the gangs was never, ever going to work. And even as we speak, despite the £800 million we've given the French, even as we speak, there are French naval vessels escorting these boats across to a 12-mile line where they'll be picked up by Border Force or our volunteers for the RNLI if it's a busy day and Border Force simply can't cope. And now what happens is the French give them all life jackets. And when they're picked up by Border Force give the life jackets back to the French so they can reuse them on the next journey. I mean, we're literally witnessing two governments colluding in their support of criminal activity. Well, this issue has become a scourge of modern Britain. Just think about the hotels. Think about the houses of multiple occupancy, and not just the cost of it, but think how unfair that is. Unfair to the 1.3 million British people currently on the social housing list. Unfair to those who have legally made their way into the United Kingdom. It's unfair. And the cost, frankly, is eye-watering. Official figures show the whole thing costs about £7 billion a year, but that doesn't account for the massive scale of operations in the English Channel every day. It doesn't account for the amount of police time and court time that is taken up with crimes that are committed by those who frankly shouldn't be here and have come illegally. Our proposals will save, over the course of the next decades, tens and possibly even hundreds of billions of pounds. By the end of a first Parliament, we will have saved a huge amount of money. I understand the public have had enough of this, but here's what we have to do to make Operation Restoring Justice actually work. We have to leave the ECHR, no ifs, no buts. It may have been a good idea 80 years ago. Frankly, it isn't today. We have to repeal the Human Rights Act of 1998, brought in by a Blair government, many of whose families seem to do rather well off the back of it. We will, for a 5-year period, disapply the 1951 Refugee Convention and any other barriers that can be used by lawyers in this country to prevent deportations, to prevent the right thing from happening. We'll create a legal duty for the Home Secretary to remove those that come illegally. And crucially, we will detain all illegal migrants who come, and we will do so immediately. The only way we will stop the boats is by detaining and deporting absolutely anyone that comes via that route. And if we do that, the boats will stop coming within days, because there will be no incentive to pay a trafficker to get into this country. If you come to the UK illegally, you will be detained and deported and never, ever allowed to stay, period. That is our big message from today, and we're the first party to put out plans that could actually make that work. We will stop the boats from coming. There'll be no more incentive to pay traffickers. Public trust will be restored, and we genuinely are the only party that can be trusted on this. I am the only party leader that has been clear and consistent on this issue over the course of the last 5 years. And I have a feeling that what we're doing today with Operation Restoring Justice is going to be very popular in the wider country indeed. Catherine Foster from GB News.
Thank you, Catherine Forster, GB News. Nigel Farage, last September you told GB News that it was a political impossibility to deport hundreds of thousands of people and that you simply couldn't do it. What has changed your mind that you now believe that you can?
The political impossibility was deporting millions and millions of people, and that's where the argument had gone. We had a situation, a political difficulty within Reform UK. This does happen to parties. They do have difficulties and problems. We had a problem that one of our MPs, who's no longer an MP, was talking about deporting entire communities, including people who've been born here. And frankly, we found that unacceptable. And so I just did not want, I think you can quote me for another interview, to get dragged down the route of mass deportations at that stage. We have sorted out that political internal difficulty that we had, and since that time, the work has been done on a credible plan so that we can deport hundreds of thousands of people over the 5 years of a Reform government.
Very professional performance.
Really powerful, very powerful, uncompromising message. Mark, sum up Mark White's with us, what he said in that hour.
For me, the most significant aspect of what has been said hasn't been said. He's not spoken about turning back the boats, which was always the mantra of Reform. We can just turn those boats back to France and, you know, the French will just have to accept that it can be done. He's been on a journey.
Yeah.
He's gone away from that. What he wants to do now is contemplate an idea that he said was unworkable until fairly recently, which was mass migration. But he says he can make, mass deportation.
Yeah.
He says he can make mass deportation work because what he will do is immediately detain those coming across the channel. They will be housed in former military bases, but unlike Wethersfield, where in Essex, where you've got people who are very concerned about thousands of migrants potentially being housed there, he won't let people out to wander around local towns and villages. He is going to keep them in these camps until it's time to deport them.
Wow.
Another aspect which I thought was quite interesting was that he will offer payments of £2,500 to those willing to leave of their own accord. That, he said, is actually a better option, as unpalatable as it might be for many people who say, why reward those who break into our country? He said, actually, and Zia Yusuf said that.
They do it in America. They do it in America.
They do it in America, and he said that you're talking about £2,500 versus £17,000 to deport someone forcibly with all the security around that individual.
Fascinating. All right, Mark.